All right, thank you for joining the Wednesday, February 13th edition of the Cluster API Provider Implementers Meeting, EMEA. Just a reminder that this is a Kubernetes meeting and we are governed by the CNCF Code of Conduct. We'll go ahead and get today's meeting started with an agenda item from Pablo, I believe, regarding the permission issues when deploying the sample provider from Cluster API Bar.
Hi, hello, Jason. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I was having problem with my headphones, new headphones. Obviously, I still trying to figure out how to make it work. Yes, basically the question is that I was just following the intrusion of the book, of the Cluster API book, and how to create a provider for a new platform. And I found two issues. The first one is a bug that I reported, but I could solve myself, which is related to, I think, a change in the way Code Builder generates the scaffolding code that now the operator needs to handle additional in parameters. That's something that is solved. But then when I could finally make it run, I get a lot of errors because of the permissions. Basically, what's happening is that there is no currently permission for accessing the Cluster API objects. Okay, and actually, it's very clear to say that the access for cluster resources are. We're looking at the errors. Well, there are many of those errors, but the problem then seems to be that I need to adapt the default role that is created by Kube Builder, which makes sense, to add the required permission, but I don't know which permission are those. So I don't know where to start looking at, because I can try to make it by trial and error. That's probably my plan B. But I would like to know if there is any working implementation of this API. The problem is that the other providers don't necessarily follow in this pattern, because my understanding is some of these other providers, like the AWS provider, were created like before the API was consolidated. So probably they are not following strictly the same architecture of this book. I'm trying to make like a canonical implementation, following the book, literally following the book, and say, okay, how is it supposed to work? But I don't know where to start looking at for these problems I'm having.
For sure. So in reference to the canonical from the book, if you take a look at the Cluster API Provider SSH from the Samsung Cloud Native computing team, that was authored by the same team that created the Git book. And so that's going to be the closest reference implementation to following the book.
Okay.
I can't speak to the AWS provider, as I haven't taken a look at it recently, but it also adhered relatively closely to the same concepts. And as well, I work primarily on the Cluster API Provider OpenStack, and that also follows the Gitbook examples fairly closely. That being said, there is some issues with Kube Builder in creating RBAC, where you Currently, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the 1.0.8 release of KubeBuilder. But as of 1.0.7, you weren't able to arbitrarily create rules that allowed you to access some components that were being generated outside of the specific KubeBuilder code. So I would suggest the best thing to do is, if you're having issues with the RBAC, is probably hop into a debug session with somebody in Cluster API, and we can definitely take a look at that with you
Okay.
to see where those are. But the reference manifests that are generated from KubeBuilder, specifically in the case for us on OpenStack Cluster API provider, certainly were not, they were far too limited in scope for us to be able to handle all of the things that needed to be done, i.e. accessing secrets, accessing some things that were in different namespaces, etc. And the generated manifests then needed to be hand curated, shall we say, to be able to create the effective permissions to allow the controller to operate.
Okay, I'm looking at this Amazon implementation, and you are right. I mean, it seems to be created exactly following the same structure of the book. I mean, it's like a canonical implementation of the KubeBuilder stuff. And they, as you said, manually modify the role and adding, and I'm seeing stuff that I recognize that are failing in my case. So I would probably just add whatever they do here, except, okay, they are their own resources, and then, okay, yes, they added the show you just maybe for the record, but is this implementation. Okay, now that you give me the confidence that this is a good source, it makes sense. So yes, I will try with this one. I mean, adapting to my case, but I think that they already included what I need, which is all the Cluster API resources, machine status, machine deployments, machine set, everything. All these were failing in my case, so I will try with this. Now,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What I wanted was to know a good place to start, because it's like I try to do it myself, I will end up with probably something which is not really a good example. But starting with this example, I can move forward. I will try that today. And the second part, I missed something that you mentioned, is that you said something in our KubeBuilder. Now it allows you to generate additional permissions.
It does not currently. So that's where the problem is that we aren't able to provide directives to KubeBuilder to say, hey, allow all of these things and generate RBAC for it. So it is somewhat limited in what it can create currently. And there's certainly some upstream issues with KubeBuilder and its associated tooling repositories to enable you to generate that from code. But those are not, again, as of 1.0.7, those were not in place. And I don't know about 1.0.8. So.
Okay.
So right now it's handcraft, and just be aware that hopefully in a future release it will be able to provide that, but in current releases that isn't, or the last release .7, it was not the case at that point in time.
Okay. What I will do is that I will try to make it like a patch. I mean, so that I can we have any support for the KubeBuilder itself is probably the best way to proceed, is to create that and the same way they patching in the customization step, create a custom set of rules that you can be applied to the default. Because I'm thinking not only solving my problem, but also trying to fix the documentation and add an additional step that said, do this, add these additional rules that can be applied to the default, otherwise it's not going to work. Because anyone who's come after me will face the same problem, because it's more or less obvious because you make it run and then you see the problem, but then the question is which one, because it's a long list of stuff. So I will try to solve it that way, I mean, in an ordered way, so that can be reproducible for others. Let's say apply this patch to the default. Because what I'm seeing from AWS is besides their own resources, the rest should be quite standard because it's the core cluster API object. So that makes a lot of sense. And the rest is what is already, I'm taking a look. Yeah, the rest is exactly what is already in my role. I only missing the cluster API stuff, and I will add that and we'll try. Okay, I will.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Okay, I will. If I find a way to make it work, I will try to improve the documentation so others don't suffer the same issue. The previous one, the one I mentioned, was right tricky because was the controller entered in a crash loop because it was trying to start, and the problem was it was parsing the arguments that was passing to the pod, and now Copy Builder is passing an additional argument, and the code we have in the book is not expecting it, so it's failing because it say I don't recognize this argument. So, and this, I mean, the solution is only one line, but it's tricky to get there. I mean, it's like the kind of problem that can make you have a bad first taste of the stuff. It's failing like that. It's horrible.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. The pull request to improve the docs is greatly appreciated. So.
Okay, I will do that. I will do it right away. I mean, because that's the top priority of my work right now, to move forward and to start actually implementing something on top of this. Okay, listen, thank you very much.
Awesome, fantastic. Thank you.
There is no one else right now.
It's just us two today, unfortunately. So even my colleagues were unable to join. So.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Take care and have a great day.
Thank you. You too.